So I've got right at 10:45. We'll give another minute. Again, this is Fostering Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Presentation coming up will be Valuing and Rebranding Soft Skills in IT. It's from Hughes at Maritime, Kate Miffitt at the Chancellor's Office, Bethany Rizzardi from Humboldt, and Patty Weyand from San Bernardino. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Weyand or Weyand, Patty? Make sure I'm saying it right.
Actually, it's Weyand. It's kind of like Hawaiian.
Weyand. Oh
With
my
a
God, I
D,
didn't even
but
grab
it's
an L.
Weyand.
I am so sorry.
Well, we could always do what my stepmother always said and tell everybody to get the L out.
Get the L out. I like it. You know, my name is butchered all the time, so I totally can empathize. So I apologize for doing that already.
Oh, no problem. That's why I don't let it even bother me at all. Hey, you works too.
Hey,
no,
you. All right. So let's see. I think I showed 10:46 now, so I think we can go ahead and get started. It looks like we still have participants flowing in. So again, welcome. This is Fostering Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and our presentation is Valuing and Rebranding Soft Skills in IT. So with that, I will turn it over to our presenters.
All right, thank you. So I am going to start our slides. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Can you see these slides okay? Get a thumbs up. Yes. Okay, great. So as Andy said, we're talking today about valuing and rebranding soft skills in IT. And so just as an overview of the format, we're going to consider why soft skills may be a misnomer for the umbrella, as an umbrella term for the set of skills that it typically refers to. And then this is going to be an interactive session. So there'll be a little bit of brainstorming of some alternative terms that we could be using. And then we're going to talk more concretely about ways that we can demonstrate value of these skills in the workplace. So to start, we're actually going to do a little poll. So if you could go to menti.com, you can do this on your phone or in a browser and put in the code that's on the screen. And I can actually put the link in the chat. You will see two prompts that we ask you to complete. And I'm going to give this about 45 seconds. So our first prompt is if you could put list the top 2 leadership skills that come to mind when you think of good leadership. And the link is in the chat. About another 10 seconds. Okay. So as you can see, when we brainstorm leadership skills, we get quite a mix of skills listed, but you know, they range from communication, empathy, listening, flexibility, and so on. So we're going to take a look at one more poll. So now I want you to list your top 2 or 3 skills that come to mind when you hear the term soft skills. And you can, it's the same link. And we'll take another 45 seconds to respond to this. About 5 more seconds. Okay. So I'm going to ask my co-presenters, Tara, Patty, and Bethany. So I'm going to toggle between these two word clouds, and I want you to, any observations. And for folks following along, you're welcome to add any observations in the chat as well. So if we look at the responses for leadership skills, right, we see collaboration, understanding, communication, empathy, listening, organized. And now we look at soft skills.
Yeah, I see communication and empathy and listening in big letters on both of those.
Okay. Yeah, Felix noted in the chat, communication is on both. Any other observations of that list, those lists? So it strikes me that there's a lot of overlap between what we consider to be leadership skills and then what we consider to be soft skills. Okay. So I'm going to go back to our slides. So while there's some, variance on how soft skills are defined, I'm going to use this list from the U.S. Department of Labor just to kind of level set with kind of the set of skills that we're referring to today. So the Department of Labor identifies communications, enthusiasm and attitude, teamwork, networking, problem solving, and critical thinking, and professionalism as soft skills. And we're going to spend some time today talking about why that's problematic. So a couple of problems with the term soft. First, it's imprecise. And so it's referring to this list of skills that we just took a look at, which are really, some of those things are skills, some of those things are attitudes and values. So it's hard to kind of have a consensus around what soft skills are exactly. Further, it's kind of inaccurate. It equates these different skills and abilities as, it implies that they're something that can't be developed, that they're just kind of, they're non-technical. The term soft itself has a little bit of a gender bias to it. It sounds like it's kind of touchy-feely, that it's less demanding. And finally, I think the term soft diminishes the overall importance of these skills when, and again, if you look back at our brainstorm list, that there's a lot of overlap between leadership skills and soft skills. So we're going to take a couple minutes in breakout rooms and just do a little brainstorm around, how should we refer to these skills? Like, what term would you prefer when you're thinking about this kind of set of skills and values and attitudes? And do you think we should rebrand these skill sets in the CSU? So I'm going to pause the share for a moment and break us into groups. All right, so we're going to brainstorm for about 5 minutes and then report back from our groups, just a few ideas that we come up with. All right, welcome back, everyone. Everyone is being beamed back from their breakout rooms. I hope you had some good discussions. I know 5 minutes is not a long time, but so I'm going to invite the there's two ways that you can kind of share out what you talked about in your groups. The first is you're welcome to add any ideas or discussion points to the chat. And then you're also welcome to share. I'm going to call on my co-presenters who are in the breakout rooms to share any observations that they had from their breakout rooms. Tara, Bethany, or Patty, any observations?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. We sort of took the second part to the question first, and should we make the effort to rebrand? And yes, it was a unequivocal yes, because we just we need to give those skills a good name. And so to the first part of the question, what was decided upon, which I thought was great, is what are called essential skills. So these are essential skills that we all need to have in order to go forward. So that was our input, and it was a great discussion, and I want to thank the people in our breakout.
Great, I like that one, essential skills.
Yeah, our group noted that emotional intelligence, they all seem to be related to emotional intelligence. And so perhaps they could just be emotional intelligence skills. I'm seeing in the chat, and I see group 3 called out perhaps professional skills. So I think that fits in a lot with what Patty was saying from her group about those essential skills. And then I also see interpersonal skills in the chat as an option too.
Yeah, our group talked about business skills and leadership skills, and just the idea of naming things for what they are. So instead of trying to be, under a generic umbrella, just calling things communication skills, team building skills, active listening skills, kind of removing the need of having to paint it with too broad of a brush.
Great, thank you. Yes, so those are all great suggestions, and I'm looking still in the chat. There's a couple of more. Yeah, like interpersonal skills, relational skills, authentic global skills. That's a great one. Human skills, power skills. Great. So I'm going to go back to our slides. And those, some of the feedback from the groups is consistent with what we found in some of the articles that we looked at for this session. So one recommendation was using the specific skill words like communication skills, presentation skills, visual skills, and just to be really concrete about what they are. President of Dartmouth College, Philip Handelin, is an advocate for using the term power skills. Leadership skills. Another president COO suggested just calling it human performance and being able to evaluate that. And then finally, transferable skills, because they regardless of what your kind of core responsibilities are, they apply in a lot of different settings. So, we talked a bit about why that term is problematic. And so maybe I did the strike through here, kind of, maybe we'll call these the essential skills in moving forward. So we talked a bit about why the term is problematic, but let's talk a little bit about how they're valued in the workplace. So I, often see headlines, and you've probably seen something similar, where it sounds like employers are finding that their employees or the workforce is lacking in soft skills. And we know too that because of advances in automation, that these really human skills are critical to develop. So again, these are consistent with the soft skills we've been talking about: communications, listening, problem solving, critical thinking, and so on, things that can't be easily automated. But it seems to be that there's some disconnect between what employers are saying is important. And then when we post job ads, they often look like this, right? So I know this is not super readable, but you get the idea that, what's in yellow is are the soft skills, and they're kind of way below the fold on when you look at a typical job description. So I want to talk a little bit about that, that disconnect between what we're saying is important in the workplace and then what we actually do to value them. So we're going to do another quick breakout discussion. And in your groups this time, we're going to talk about, do you think that these core skills are valued in the workplace? And you can consider it from the lens of hiring, through retention and promotion. And if there are any concrete actions that you think that we could take to better demonstrate value of these kinds of skills. So we're going to get into some new groups. Okay, and then we will reconvene again in about 5 minutes. All right, and welcome back from your groups. I hope your discussions were fruitful. So it's going to be the same opportunities to share out. So you are welcome to post any thoughts or observations in the chat. You are welcome to come on mic, and I'm going to start with my co-presenters for observations from the chat. So Patty, please take it away.
Yeah, this was one of those topics that actually we could have spent a lot longer discussing, and I kind of wish we had. And it came across as there's sort of a mixed bag, but one of the things, or a couple of the things, was that we needed to, upgrade our job classification standards. That there was an effort within the Chancellor's office to, I think it was the ITC. And because the current job descriptions sort of are more tech skill focused, and they needed to be just a sort of honed a little bit better for this current age in which we're living in, and they're kind of been dated. There was the observation that sometimes the soft skills are kind of like lip service, that there's really nothing tangible that is attached to it, that the tech skills are still the only skill really to have, and we don't really provide any leadership, and we don't sort of bring these people along. And then the other observation that we came up with was that in a job description that the tech skills are kind of more implied, and that there is the assumption that those human skills are there. We just sort of assume that this person that's applying for this job can do it. And one of the litmus tests that was discussed was the beer factor, and that when you're hiring somebody, is this somebody that you would sit down and have a beer with, or whatever beverage that you have? And so to just sort of nurture along those interpersonal skills. But we really weren't able to discuss too much about the concrete action to demonstrate the values. So
great, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Others?
Our group shared that they felt like they saw it. They felt like they saw some interest in these skills during the interview and the hiring process, but then after that, there wasn't a lot to cultivate. And some of the concrete ideas that were shared was including these skills explicitly on performance evaluations, rewarding them in some way, and also professional development around them. We have, people, tools, one training, but we don't have these types of skills on the training menu.
So you cut out for me a little bit. I just want to state back what I think I heard, that these core skills are not often cultivated, and there's not like kind of training or development provided to help develop these.
Yeah, you got it. Sorry about that.
I don't know if it's my internet or I just, but okay, great. Thank you. Tara, did you have any observations from your group?
Yeah, we didn't make it to the second question. I agree. But one of the things that I thought was such a great point is that kind of going back to the previous breakout about naming these skills, leadership skills can unintentionally exclude people who don't see themselves in a leadership role or don't see that as part of their job description. And so when you're talking about performance evaluations and things like that, that when you call these essential skills, it changes kind of the expectation around who should care about fostering these skills and cultivating them. And I think that's a really important point as we think about kind of helping our teams grow. And like Bethany said, providing development opportunities, not just around the technical things, but also in these other areas.
Great. Any other comments from participants? Anyone want to share?
Kate, if I can just jump in, this is Sheila from the CO. Just an observation that a lot of these education around these essential skills, I love that term, by the way, Tara, it tends to be live classroom based kind of education, which has obviously been lacking over the past year. So just one observation of why some campuses genuinely do have a lack of that kind of class. But I would say we've all been impacted over the past year by a lack of opportunity to meet in person to develop these professional essential skills.
Yeah, agreed, because they are kind of interpersonal by nature. There's an in-person component to at least developing some. Ro, I see that you have your hand up if you'd like to take the mic.
Oh, yes, Kate, thank you. Our group didn't get a chance to discuss number 2 about concrete action. So I just wanted to share my opinion that maybe one of the first steps that we could do is to find ways to make human skills, I like that term, human skills tangible. If we can somehow agree, what does a person who has team building skills look like? Because so much of these human skills I consider subjective. So if there is a way to mesh some metric-driven examples to help us flesh it out a little bit more, I think that would be a good, solid first step.
Great, that's a great point. And it dovetails nicely with Erin's comment in the chat about having programs to recognize and call out those skills, which is another kind of tangible thing. I'm not going to go back to the slides because there's just one left, but just a couple of suggestions that I think were touched on a bit. I'll just kind of list prioritizing those skills more in job ads and then the interview process. There was a comment in the chat about making sure that there's diverse hiring teams on hiring committees. Invest in soft skills training, and there was also some articles kind of in the research for this that demonstrated that soft skills training can actually be really effective. I think there's some, it doesn't seem very intuitive, but it can be really effective. And the last DEI session actually focused on AR, VR experiences that help develop empathy. So there are even examples within the CSU. I know Channel Islands has that one in their nursing program. So there's examples of even how to do this virtually. And then finally, creating professional development pathways to develop these critical skills in a kind of mentoring, managing role. I see a couple of hands up, and Cheryl, if you'd like to go first.
Thanks. I just wanted to kind of mention a thing that I think doesn't get enough attention also, and it's desensitizing the conversation around these types of things. Oftentimes, I think managers are uncomfortable to bring up things that their teams can work on, or calling out. It's kind of like harshly sounds like, calling someone out, but really just being able to bring those things up so that they can be worked on. Oftentimes, I think a lot of things are not worked on as a developmental skill because they're not talked about. So all these things that we're talking about that we want people to be able to successfully share as, you know, as part of being a team, we oftentimes don't bring them up. You know, as a manager, we should be able to, or as a teammate, or as whatever, we should be able to say, hey, I saw you roll your eyes in the meeting. Would you like to talk about it? Hey, you know, your email was, you know, you used some pretty harsh language. You know, is there something that's challenging you, or can we talk about it? So bringing those things up so there is development instead of just leaving the elephant in the room and not really working on those things.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Thank you for sharing. And I think it relates to this idea that if without a concrete language about them, like as essential skills, right? If you say it's soft and it's sort of ephemeral and squishy, and it's hard to, you know, call out people on how to develop them if it's framed as something that's sort of like a nice to have. Whereas if we see it kind of as essential or core to performance, and it becomes easier to talk about. So I want to acknowledge that we are, I believe, officially at time. So I'm gonna, we're in the room for a couple of minutes before the next session starts, but I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you for kind of going through this thought exercise with us. It was intended to be kind of a provocation to help think through the value of some of these skills. And then I will pass the mic to Jan.
Actually, real quick, I also want to thank our sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
So we had 2 sponsors for this session. So SHI, Aaron is here, I saw.
Oh, yay,
and also
thank you.
Intel, thank you for sponsoring. And so we do have a few minutes left. So we actually have till 11:25. So we've got 4 minutes, so we can take more questions. So we'll turn it to Jan from here. But thank you for everyone for your time this afternoon, or this morning, I guess.
Hello, thank you. I'm from Calstate Northridge, and my background, I'm from a career center, and we've developed technologies for our students. So the soft skills subject, you know, interested me. And I will say it is a term that students really don't understand, because I've tried lots of different things, tested things out to get students interested. I like some of the new terms. But one of the places to really build those soft skills are in internships. So if faculty could embed that into their curriculum, that is a place where students are going to learn those soft skills. So that's one point. And then we too have a soft skill. We developed the first one, which was emotional intelligence. And it is in virtual reality, and we've embedded that in our mobile app, which will be launching this fall. So yes, we are doing those things too, but we're coming out of a career center, not from the IT space. So thank you for having this session today. It's been really interesting.
Thank you for sharing, and it's good to hear. And I do, but you know, IT does employ a lot of student assistants, so I think there's an opportunity there to be kind of explicit in the importance of these skills, even within IT, and then help nurture and develop them as well. Sheila, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just very quickly to Cheryl's point about having the language to have those discussions. What I think will help is that the workforce planning team has identified core CSU competencies. They haven't been fully announced or made public yet, but they will be. So there are core competencies and core leadership competencies, which will be embedded in performance evaluations. So there will be some very concrete, tangible things for people to discuss with their manager, and actions around that and training to support it.
That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you. So with just about a minute left, any closing comments from my co-presenters? Okay.
I'll add something. I would just say real quick, just to keep this conversation going. This is what we need to do. We just need to keep, we don't need to, just because the conference ends, we need to keep the conversation going. So thanks for everybody for participating in this.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's a great segue to remind that you can continue the conversation on Slack at the Calstate Tech Slack channel. So there's opportunities for that there too. So thank you again to all our presenters, for everyone who joined us. We'll start getting ready for our next session.
Thank you all for attending and for engaging with the topics.
Thank you. And away you go.